In this video, we are going to work with simple interest. So before we get started, simple interest is the amount of money that we earn typically from putting something into a bank account. So we deposit an amount into a bank account, and slowly over time, if we don't do anything, there's interest earned, and so that amount grows. So there's some special terminology that we want to use when we're working with simple interest. So again, simple interest is earned only on the principal or the original amount deposited into the account. So let's say you deposited $100, that would be called the principal. It is earned over a period of time, and it's often referred to or written as a percentage. And there's a special formula that we'll use for simple interest, and it is I equals PRT, where each of those letters stands for something very specific. So I represents the amount of interest, so the interest earned. P represents the principal, and remember that's your original amount that you deposited. Then we have the rate. R is rate, and we write that rate as a decimal. So sometimes a bank will say we give 4% interest, so we would write that 4% as a decimal. And then lastly, T is for time, and we measure the time in years. So that's something we'll be careful to look for as we solve these problems. So let's go ahead and take this formula and apply it to some different problems. So the question says to use the simple interest formula to determine the amount of interest earned. Then find the total value of the account, assuming no other deposits or withdrawals were made. So I'm going to jot down our simple interest formula right here. I equals PRT. And then let's look at the question and determine what information we know. It says a $900 deposit for 20 years at a simple interest rate of 4%. Okay, so a $900 deposit, that's what we started with, so that's going to represent our principal. It tells us that we're going to be there for 20 years, so that's going to represent T for time. And the simple interest rate is 4%, so that represents R, our rate. So we have three values. We can multiply those together since that's what the formula says to do, and that will give us I, which stands for our interest. So let's go ahead and work that out. So again, I'm going to rewrite my formula. I know I'm looking for I. I'm going to go back to my question and look for my principal, my initial deposit, which is $900. Now I'm looking for R, my rate, which it tells me is 4%. Now I know we're going to write this rate as a decimal. So that's a very common mistake. We want to be careful not to just put the number 4 because 4 would represent 400%. So I know my decimal is hidden back here behind my whole number, and to make a percent into a decimal, I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the left and fill in a placeholder. So we can say that this is equal to 4 hundredths. We could also, if you forgot how to do that, you could remember that percent means out of 100. So 4 out of 100, 4 hundredths. Okay, so we're going to take that number, go back to our formula. We're going to plug that in for R. And then T stands for time in years. And I see in the problem it says 20 years. So I can use the number 20. Now, when we're solving this, if you're solving by hand without a calculator, then I always recommend multiplying the whole numbers before you multiply by the rate with the decimal. It just makes your work a little bit easier. And so if we're going to do that, we would multiply 900 times 20. Use my placeholder. And 2 times 9 is 18. So we'd get 18,000. And then we would want to multiply that times 4 hundredths. And remember that we can do that because this is multiplication. So if I go over here and multiply 18,000 times 4 hundredths, I get $72,000, but remember we need to look for a decimal. If I look in my problem, there are 2 digits to the left, so I'm going to go to my product and make sure there are 2 digits to the left there. So now I go back to my problem, and I know that interest equals $720. So I'm going to list that over here as my interest. And then if I wanted to find my total value, remember we put that $900 deposit in, it earned $720 in interest. So to find out the total at the end of 20 years, or our total value, we're going to need to add those 2 numbers together. So I can add 900 plus $720, and I'll get $1,620. So that would be my total value, and that represents the value of the account after that period of time, including the interest. Okay, great work.